everyone. We are back at it again at Hope Hill Center. Back with another podcast. I am here with our guest, which is Shakes. Thank you for coming, Shakes.
It's only a pleasure. It's only a pleasure.
100%, yes. As you guys might know him, he has been in one of our podcasts. He's a bit famous here in our channel. So yeah, we are here gonna talk about a few things. As you guys know him, he's our addiction counselor here at Hope Hill Center. So I'm just gonna ask him a few questions based on that, and some of the things about his experience, etc. So yeah, Shakes, like tell me like what actually made you to become a counselor?
All right. With me finding myself in this position, it inevitably grew into a calling. Just to start off with my journey,
Mm-hmm.
as I am in recovery as well. Initially, when I started off my journey, I used to help a lot of people get into treatment, facilitate, the procedure of getting one into rehab. And it's something that just gave me joy because when I help someone else, I feel good, seeing someone else also getting out of the mud, really gave me joy, that I am making a difference, because a lot of people they knew me and knew the type of drugs that I did. And it was to them a miracle seeing me out of the mud, and I started off helping people. And I started off, in my recovery, attending support groups and doing, a bit of facilitations in terms of sessions and stuff and whatnot. And it just became like a second nature to me, and inevitably it became a calling whereby I loved doing this. I loved helping people. I loved giving the opportunity to make a difference in someone else's life. And I pursued it as a career. And here I am today, being an addiction counselor, and that is how I found myself being in this position today,
100%. As you mentioned that you were an addict before,
Mm.
I'm very much interested into knowing, like, back in those days, like, what was going on, like, in your life at that time when you actually started using?
For me to start using, I had a feeling that I always mention that it's a feeling that I was born with. I call it a void. It's like an empty feeling, an empty hole that I had, whereby I didn't feel good enough, didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, felt insecure, felt inferior, all these type of things.
Mm.
And this feeling is a feeling that I tried to cope with during my young years or when I was still, very young. I tried to deal with it whichever way I could, maneuvering around life with that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got introduced the first time to substances, something that alters your mind or your mood, I really liked that feeling and I really enjoyed that feeling. It made me feel good about myself. It made me, you know, feel comfortable in my own skin. It made me have confidence. It really made me someone else, if I can put it that way. Here I am now, someone who is low in self esteem, lacks confidence. When I use this thing or when it enters my system, I become, the total opposite. So that is how I inevitably found myself using. This thing became a solution to my problem then, and that is how I got into it because I had this feeling which I couldn't bear with, I didn't enjoy, and I found something that then was a solution that solved that problem, that filled that void, and now I can be able to maneuver around life confidently, engage, participate, and just live life, in that particular moment in time. So
100%.
yeah, that's how I got in, right, to put it that way.
So tell me, like, how long were you in active addiction and how clean are you right now?
All right. I've been in active addiction for 13 years and I'm going for 8 years clean now. Soon it'll be 8 years.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thanks,
It's not
thanks.
by chance, it's with hard work and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
focus and all that.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
from that 13 years of active addiction, right? Um, how and let me just make an example, like for 12 years, or let's say in that 12 and a half years to the last days of when you used, what was the difference in the feeling of using the drugs or the alcohol in that time?
You know, initially, like everyone else who starts off using, in the early days, it's quite fun, pleasant. It's not problematic early on. I mean, you use here and there sparingly, not consistently, and you can still maintain it. Maybe you still have a job, or parents are still there, there's still funds. You're not um, struggling to get funds to maintain your habit early on,
Mm,
And then as it progresses, it starts escalating, it starts picking up speed, and it starts becoming progressive, whereby now you develop a habit, whereby now this is like second nature, that this is the next best thing to breathing, or this is what I do regularly. It's like for people who smoke cigarettes, for example. When I wake up, that's the first thing before I go to bed. Masla be that type of thing. You understand?
yeah.
Before a meal, after a meal, that type of thing. So addiction develops into something like that, whereby now I need to use it every other time, if not all of the time. And
Mm,
it reaches a point whereby I even use it more than I eat, more than I take care of myself, all these type of things. So I can't really put an exact date of when I can really say I started becoming broken.
mm,
But what I can say is that I started going to treatment from the year 2013,
mm,
and the 5 years leading up to that, it was just a treatment after a treatment every year. So I could rightfully say at that year, I was already broken because I was living already in my rock bottom. Rock bottom, when you define it, it's not based on material things. It's quite spiritual, because a person can have millions and billions, drive lavish cars, have whatever figures in the account, but be broken.
mm.
So it's defined as when a person, them using is, way less important than them losing something quite valid or very important in their life. So I reached a point, I could rightfully say, maybe from the year 2016, if I can put it that way. That's when, yeah, things were really now starting to be very, very bad. I think that was around year 11 going to 12, and
Mm.
up until, I finished off on my 13th year. That's when things were really bad. Here and there, the family was still supportive, they were still there, all these type of things. But now, up until I reached those points, that's when my addiction was facing me head on, where I had no scapegoat, where I had nowhere to run to. And now this thing was really, you know, um, a ringer, if I can put it that way. I
Mm.
even, tried committing suicide 3 times, which I never succeeded. And I was even a failure at that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I reached a point, I can still remember this vividly, and this is something I try to keep close with me and I try not to forget. I reached a point whereby I would wake up in the morning and feel sad for waking up, because the day or the night before, rather, I prayed to God,
Mm-hmm.
that can you please take me, because now I serve no purpose to my family. For me to smoke, someone has to cry.
Mm.
I lived off people's tears, that type of thing. I would needed to rob someone, steal something, take something for me to just get my fix. So now it was so bad that when I wake up, I would have to go and hustle. I don't
Mm.
want to smoke anymore, but I can't stop. I've tried numerous times. I even tried, treatment. I've tried a lot of things. I've went to rehab, and there's something that just didn't work at that time. And at that moment, when I would wake up, I don't want to use anymore, but I don't know how to stop. And
Mm.
the drug that I was using, if you don't smoke, if I don't get my fix, or if I don't fix myself, I'm gonna vomit.
Mm.
That's how my dosage was so high, that if I don't get my fix, I would vomit, get weak,
The
all
withdrawals.
these type of
Mm.
things. Yeah, the withdrawals. So I would go and hustle because I have to. Not that I wanted to, but I have to use. And after smoking, I'd feel like crying, because I just don't want to do this
Mm.
anymore. So I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. So that feeling, really define it to the exact, but that's really how I felt. I was so broken that I was damned if you did, damned if you don't. That if I stop, if I say I'm not smoking today, I will get sick and stuff. And the only thing that will fix me is getting my fix. And after smoking, I would, feel so low, feel so down, feel so broken because I don't want to do this thing anymore. And it's a very uncomfortable place. And that is something that, really defined my using career, that, I reached a point where I was so broken. There wasn't a way out, at that time. And I just didn't want to continue doing this. So I was stuck, and I was broken. And that is how my last days towards me finding help led up to. I was really stuck, broken, and just in a very dark place in oblivion, basically, where there wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel or anything. Yeah, and that's what defined the last years, from year one up until 12 and a half years leading up to the 13th year, up until I stopped.
So you have been through like multiple rehab facilities.
Most definitely, most definitely. And that is something, as you mentioned right now, this is something that I can add, under my belt as experience that I have, and I know what it takes to help, a still suffering, recovering, or a still suffering drug addict or alcoholic, because I know what worked for me and what didn't work. Not to discredit anything, but Hope Hill has a program designed around dealing with the deep underlying issues. Our program is trauma based, and this is something that really helped me, to deal with my deep underlying issues. Because I would go to a rehab, I would go in with issues. I would have guilt, remorse, pressure, all these setbacks and challenges, feeling bad about myself and all these type of things. And when I would leave with those things because they were never addressed, they were never touched on. Yes, they will teach me about relapse prevention. Some treatment facilities will have, a religious practitioner come and speak to us. We would do, certain things like medication. And other times, we will speak about addiction, but not in a deeper sense for me to understand exactly what the problem is. And today I can rightfully cater for that. And that is something that worked for me for the first time when I came across someone who does what I do, an addiction counselor, someone who didn't just study, addiction, but also has practical experience, someone who is also walking the walk, that helped me,
100%.
to bring me closer to understanding exactly what is wrong with me. And that is the leverage that I believe I have. And that is something that Hope Hill Center caters for, which is addressing the deep underlying issue, the very same thing that causes me, to go and use, because me using is a symptom of what I suffer from. So what is the disease? What is the illness? Let's try and address that, because if I stop to use or to drink, what about the disease itself? So that's something that I need to treat. And this is where the program specifically designed here caters for such things. And that is why my previous treatments never worked. And it is the last one that I went to, almost 8 years ago that worked, because it catered for my deep underlying issues, the very same things that caused me to go and drink or to go and smoke.
100%. I mean, personally, you being clean or let me just say recovering addicts, having all these principles, the compassion, the love for the next suffering addict and all that. One thing I want to ask you, like you personally, because you've been through multiple like facilities and stuff like that, but also, even though we can get the best help from, the facility, but like, we have to start making that decision that, I really want to change. But also like we can tell ourselves so many times, right?
And then still, not be able to put in the work and etc. But my question for you is like this time around when you came to a treatment facility, like what was a bit different? What was different at that time because you've walked in a few times?
Yeah.
But in that moment,
And
like, what was
with the
different?
last treatment, then eventually, what was different? It's it boils all down to that an addiction counselor.
Is it?
I don't want to lie. I went to rehab again. I went to 6 rehabs in 5 years. and that's the sixth one that worked. And the difference between the previous five is that they didn't have an addiction counselor.
Oh, is
That
Okay.
is the difference. And I would attend classes, I would attend sessions, but when I came to sessions that were facilitated by an addiction counselor, I could relate. I could identify, I could understand whatever he spoke about. It was like he was speaking about me.
Like saying your story is like you looking in a mirror, but
Definitely,
100%.
definitely. And it all boils down to that. It all boils down to that. That's what really saved me, because I went to that sixth rehab like all the previous times. I wanted to run away from my problems. I wanted the trust to come back, the love to come back. I wanted to be allowed back into the house. And it was just another attempt. I wanted to run away from my problems. But as soon as I got there, I heard something different from these other facilities. And that, made the penny to drop, and that's when I really absorbed everything. I really listened. I was never a guy who used to speak much in class and stuff, but I listened. And whatever I got there by just me listening, I was able to absorb it, to relate, and whatever was suggested, I did it, in terms of helping myself. And by me doing that, a whole lot of people benefited from that. So it having someone who has walk the walk and not just talk the talk, who can relate, who knows exactly what you're going through, how the disease of addiction manifests, and all these type of things. I mean, it takes a thief to catch a thief. Till today, police officers or officials go to prisoners and say, how do we catch this guy? We need information on this person to catch him. I mean, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Where else do you. So it takes a thief to catch a thief. And
100%.
that's what worked for me. That's what worked for me.
But that is true, because I can relate to some degree, because I still remember, when I first came into treatment, even an addiction counselor wasn't there, So for me, as stubborn as I was, it took me years also, to go through multiple treatment facilities until, I heard, some addiction counselor, say my story. So like in my head, right, I see this guy 6 years clean, and I'm like 24 hours to 7 days clean, right? His story is aligned to my story, but even worse because he's a bit older than me, But I couldn't like listen to what he said and the way I look at him now. That gave me a lot of hope and be like, okay, I think I should try this, because me coming in broken and, a little bit desperate, I can say, feeling worthless, from everything that happened, me seeing him and the way he's living his life, right? And he's telling me he's sober, he's 6 years, and he used to use what I use, and in my head, I'm like, nah, this can't be, But the more I started listening to him, it started making sense, because I'll be like, how does this bro know? Is this bro speaking to my family? Is he doing some freaky shit behind my back? Is he trying to like figure out stories about me so that he can come and relate? And then I came to realize that it is his story, and I think that also, made me relate to him and also listen to him. And I'll ask him like, what did you do? What should I do? So yeah, you really touched into that. That is true, actually. So how did like active addiction, how did that affect your mental health?
I'm one of the fortunate ones that didn't lose it, but I was, at war with myself. I remember when I was early in recovery, I think 3 to 6 months, there was this thing where my mom told me that, my son, you are at peace. And why she mentioned that is that I wasn't a very violent guy, aggressive guy at home, that type of thing and whatnot, but I was always sad, down, depressed, would close myself in my room, that type of thing. And that was because I was always angry at myself that I don't have a plan, I don't have a fix, I'm stuck. I tried committing suicide, it didn't work. I can't stop, using drugs, all these type of things. So I would have people in my life, someone that I would be using with, but he would even say that, you know what, Shakes, You know, when you used to smoke, we would be sitting together, chilling together. You'd be talking to me, but whatever you'd be saying wouldn't be making sense. It's like you were speaking gibberish or something, that type of thing. And that's where you get to see that, you know what, I was zoned out, if you will. I was a zombie. This is a term that I like to use, that you don't feel most of the time when you're in active addiction. Even when you do something wrong, you don't get to feel it, that hey, this is really wrong, that type of thing. And my mental state, I can rightfully say it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was deteriorating, if I can put it that way. It was deteriorating. I was also suffering from insomnia. I never understood what is a panic attack up until I got to be exposed to it and the symptoms and stuff, whereby I would, be like sitting in a chair still, but everything around me would be moving so fast, whereby I can't even control my temperature and stuff, all these type of things. I never used to. I thought that I couldn't even define it, but I only understood later that those were panic attacks that used to hit me, that type of thing. And in terms of my processing, my thinking, when the disease has you, when you suffer from, a mental obsession, your mind is fixated on one thing back. You don't think about anything else. You don't consider consequences or whatever the case may be. So my mind was like, just running on one track. And it wasn't even healthy, because the decisions that I made then weren't good, not just for my family, but for me as well. I didn't think of my health or anything else, and I would just ensure that I get my next fix, and that's what my mind was fixated on. So my mental health wasn't very good. I didn't, I couldn't even sleep. I would, the only thing that will happen to me is that I would pass out. I would get a blackout, but it would be like I would close my eyes, I get hit with the blackout, and when I open them, the time will only tell that, hey, you've been out for 4 hours or 7 hours, or like they never dreamt, never did anything. And that's how life was like for me. Shutting my eyes, when I opened them, a few hours have passed by, and that was me. My mental state, it was, at a very low, if I can put it that way. It was at a very low. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, since you've been like, you had a longer active addiction, like 13 years, right? And then you came into recovery. Um, my question is, what are the consequences that still follow you from active addiction, even when you're still sober? Are there any consequences of life? Certain things you used to do years back, or just anything? Is there anything that still follows you, or just comes out of nowhere? Or have you had anything that comes out of nowhere in these past few years being clean?
Not necessarily things coming back, because with certain recovery programs, it gives you an opportunity to fix the wreckage of your past. So if you don't do that, the chances are likely that there will be something that comes back to bite you in the ass. But here and there, a typical addict has misdemeanors, all these type of things are not. But there was a point in my life whereby you would get rejected because of your past. You would be frowned upon, looked down upon, or what, not accepted or welcomed, because of the past that you had. And those are the things that were there, especially early in recovery. They used to put a person down, if I can put it that way. I always call, my clean time a few 24 hours, even though it's 8 years, but I call it a few 24 hours. And throughout this, almost 8 years, I have lived each and every day. And recovery is a roller coaster. Some days are high, some days are low. But we take the crookeds with the straights. We take the crookeds with the straights, and I guess those rejections and stuff and whatnot, they have made me to be what I am today, But by all means, I have tried to fix what I could fix, make amends where I could make amends, and I am a free man today because of that, because the opportunity was there to rectify my mistakes, because recovery is a new way of life. But it doesn't mean when I come into recovery, people that I've hurt will automatically forgive me, or things that I have stolen or broken or whatever will automatically replace themselves. There's certain things I need to do in order to replace those things. And by doing that, I ensure that I'm a free man. I won't be walking at ShopRite somewhere and see a lady and say, Ish, there's that lady I ran away with a 50 rand. Now I try and hide all these type of things. So I try and give back, or mend my ways so that I can become free, so that there's nothing that comes back,
Mm.
and bite me in the ass. So there have been early in my recovery, but today there is none. There is none, if I can put it that way.
Mm.
Things that I am still suffering from because of my addiction or my past, if I can
Mm.
put it that way. Yeah,
Mm.
in that reference, no, there is none today.
You're actually doing the opposite of what you used to do in active addiction.
Most definitely, yeah. I mean, that's how we also recover, because stopping to drink or to use is just 10% of your recovery.
100%.
The 90%, is something defined as a psychic change. Where a person gets to change, their ideas, their attitude and emotions. Have a new approach towards life. Have a certain mentality and a change of personality. So that's how a person recovers, and mends their way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, yeah, because you've been clean for some time now, like, and I don't think at this point in time you still battle with the addiction. I feel like you have stopped the desire, like you let go of the desire to use and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I just feel like there's more challenges that you're facing that in this life right now. What are those challenges that you're facing in recovery?
All right. Yeah, no, I never left the obsession. The obsession left me. It left me alone. It's not that this guy's not giving in. Let's go and try someone else. Yeah. Regarding that, yeah, I have normal challenges like everyone else. I have normal people challenges, if I can put it that way. Remember when you are an addict, a recovering addict, and whatnot, it's finding your feet in the normal life, being a normie. So I have everyday challenges like everyone else, perhaps relationship problems, maybe financial problems. Those are the type of challenges that people will have, friendships or whatever, getting stuck into traffic, maybe your car getting, stolen or whatever the case. Maybe those are everyday challenges that are there that, even people in recovery are not immune to, someone passing away, whatever the case may be. Those are the typical challenges that I face today. But in terms of um no matter what happens, I mean, even a meteor can come right now and we can see it's gonna wipe out the entire earth. I won't say, but since we're going out, let me go out with a bang, let me just go, because there's not like I'm gonna be here tomorrow to start treatment all over again. That thought has left me, the desire, the obsession has left me, a while back. Today, anything can happen. The thought of picking up doesn't cross my mind. Today, I live a very normal life like any other person.
You'd rather have those problems.
I'd rather have
Normal
those
people problems. Eh?
Yo, normal people compared to addiction, hey. Hey, it's hectic. Yo, it's hectic, and being sick, always fixated on getting a fix. And I was thinking about it, just these days leading up to this week, that what, I used to live in pain, and with the drug of choice that I used, it's pain day in, day out, because now this thing messes up with your immune system. It affected my bowel movements. I couldn't have a normal bowel, or let alone a bowel movement, without getting my fix. I couldn't urinate. My bladder would be full. I would feel so pressed. But when I try and urinate, I can't, because I haven't gotten my fix. So every day with the stomach cramps, the withdrawals, the vomiting, constantly every day. And that's why I needed to use to fix myself. So for 9 years of the 13 years, I was living in pain because of that specific drug that I was using, and it's a pain I don't want to forget. I can't remember it now. I don't know how it feels. I can try and recollect, but 8 years, I can't really say this is how it feels to be high or to be drunk, because it's been a significant time, but I don't want to forget those days that led me to be where I am today. Because if I forget where I come from, I'm gonna forget where I'm going. I'm gonna be like, hey, what am I doing here in actual fact? Where am I? Let me take an off ramp right here. So yeah, normal people problems, I can handle them today, and we take them as they come day by day. And normal today, if I can put it that way, as long as I do whatever I need to do to stay normal. And yeah, I don't have addiction problems anymore, chaos. When you're in active addiction, you have to worry about police or getting your fix, money, financial problems. All these are hurting people today. At my place, it's like I never even
Mm.
drank, I never even smoked, because of the peace that I brought to them. Today, you won't even say that I used to abuse drugs. I used to drink excessively, abuse alcohol. you,
Mm.
you won't say. My family's healed, is at peace. We're a family once more. Our house is a home, it has love,
Mm.
warmth. Today they can call, my dad can call me and say, hey, I was just checking up on you, my son. I just wanted to hear your voice, I miss you. Back then it was, hey, get out, Samantha. When are you leaving us? Why don't you just die so that we bury you and move on with our lives? But today, those things really hit home, when someone can call and say, hey, we're just
I'm
checking
just
up on you,
checking
we
up.
miss you. Back then, they wouldn't miss you, and yeah.
When you walk in the house, they're locking everything.
Look, they even tell you to get out. That's literally what would happen to me. Some days you try to be obedient and stuff, but you'll be like, hey, Ndati, alright, hey, also, you want to go shopping or something. You need, like, it's raining today, you need to be out in the rain. And you just smoke that plug now is gonna wear off, whereby you could be in the house chilling, watching TV.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Sometimes when the trust comes back, they lock the doors when they're about to leave. You hear the doors locking now, because they know that you steal everything and anything. Now the trust is back. They've even forgotten, my
Today's a
family.
bit different, you independent, you live in your own life.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
respect is there,
yeah,
you're a productive member of society,
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
blessing, and
yeah,
it came
yeah.
with a lot of hard work.
Most
It
definitely,
didn't
most
come by
definitely.
chance. I usually say this on these podcasts.
Mm,
I'll be like, recovery is not for the chosen few. It's for the few who choose it.
most definitely.
It all comes from that decision and be like, I really want to be a different person. And that's where it gets out to reaching out and looking for help.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, like what do you do to like strengthen your own personal recovery?
All right. Yeah, besides me being an addiction counselor, helping people in a professional capacity, this is a way of life for me. This is what I do in a personal capacity. I mean, I can get it, call it 2 a.m., someone, needing help or feeling like they want to drink. I need to be in a call on them and try to help them, to go through whatever they're going through, enjoy it, and come out a better man. And I also attend my own support group meetings to work on my recovery. I also have a mentor, someone who's also still guiding me, because I'm not doing this by sheer willpower or
Mm.
self-reliance. The road is asked from those who are in front. So I also need someone who will also, because I also have limited resources. I'm a human being. I also go through challenges, normal
Mm.
people challenges. I also need to have someone that I speak to as well,
100%.
who will help me to pour into my cup, or replenish my cup, refill my cup, as I pour onto others as well.
Mm.
So that is what I do. I try to also be an active participant in my own journey. I
100%.
try to ensure that I take care of my mental health, as well as my spiritual condition to be able to do this. It's not easy dealing with different personalities, people having issues and
Mm.
what they come with here, because what they come with, they offload it onto us.
100%.
And it's not easy, facilitating sessions, counseling people, facilitating trauma sessions, because people have different issues and stuff. Some speak about very traumatic things, and
Mm.
you also need to find a way to regulate in terms of switching off, that what now I'm off the clock. I need to switch off and start focusing on my personal life and not take work at home, whereby now I'm traumatized as well by what the person just disclosed and
And you're
stuff.
trying to help and
Yeah, yeah, and that is my role, but now I need to switch off. I need to ensure that also my family benefits from me as well. That if I take work home now, I arrive at home, I'm sad, I'm down, I'm depressed, I'm worried about that guy, but my family also needs me as well. My partner, my mom, my dad, all these type of things also need me to play a role to them. So having that, being able to work on my mental condition helps me to maintain my recovery. Also, engaging with my mentor, doing my own work, the very same work that the clients, do here, and people who leave the facility in order to maintain their condition. I still do that till today because I still want to stay stopped. This 8 years doesn't guarantee me another 8 years. I work on it day by day, and that's all there is to it. But yeah, I still do the very same things that are suggested that one should do, one who is in recovery, working on their condition, because what we suffer from is an incurable disease. It can only be
100%,
treated.
yes.
So I treat it as well on a daily basis so that I can treat others as well. So that is what I do to ensure that I'm always proper, good, and try to work on my personal life that will contribute to my professional life.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
that's how.
Yeah, I hear you, Shakes.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
So, what's the best piece of advice that you can give to our viewers about recovery?
All right. You couldn't have said it better with those words that, recovery is not for the chosen few, it's for the few who chose it. What I can rightfully say is that there is a way out, from addiction, whatever a disorder it may be, there is a way out. However, it also requires that kinship, that eagerness from the person as well, to be able to do the necessary work to do it. I would highly recommend, people who have, this disease, or just not sure, want to stop this ship before it crashes, seeing that, hey, there's the divorce, there's the job loss, there's all these court custody battles and stuff before you even reach those points. Here at Hope Hill Center, we provide, treatment services that can definitely help a person. You don't have to wait up until it's bad for you to say, hey, now I need help, even before you get there, so that you stop, arrest this disease before it progresses even further. So I would advise people that if you know of anyone, a loved one, a person who is in need, please feel free to contact us. We will be more than willing to assist. That's what we do,
100%.
and we will definitely avail ourselves to ensure that a loved one or anyone who's in need of help to come and get help. And we also help them in their journey, even after leaving treatment. My advice is reach out. Don't wait up until things are very bad, whereby now you're stuck. When you can see that where you are right now is headed in the wrong direction, let's stop it now. Let's not wait for the last minute up until you're holding on by a thread. Whilst you still have a very tangible cloth in your hand, we're still here to ensure that you still have abundance of that with you. So reach out. Help is there. There is a way out. Don't wait up until the last minute. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that hit home because it just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
I like how you said when you said that they mustn't wait until it gets that bad. Because I can tell you guys today you have 13 years in active addiction. You have 10 years in active addiction, and we have a little bit of clean time. And what I'm trying to say right now is, we've already been through that for you. You don't have to do 13 years, to come clean and stuff. You don't have to do 10 years, we already, did that story for you.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Like he said, while you still have that privilege, utilize the help that you have, in order for you to, live a better life, And this is going to be our end of our podcast. Thank you, Shakes, for coming.
It's only a pleasure.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Really much appreciate your perspective and your insight. Based off your experience. It really gave me a lot of insight and changed my perspective. And I hope it did the same for you guys also. Like I always say, if it didn't help, a lot of people, even if it helped one person watching this, that's more than enough for me. you know. So yeah, if you do want to visit our website, check us at www.hopehealcenter.co.za. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Oh, how many minutes?
I'm like, it's too. That much.